Hey guys, how's it going? Bored now, back with you for another cult television review and another Buffy the Vampire Slayer review. So I returned to Sunnydale, and this is going to be the 5th episode of the 2nd season. It is called Reptile Boy. So this is an interesting episode. It's written and directed by David Greenwalt. And it's one of those episodes. Over the years I've always thought of it as like one of the early stinkers of the show, kind of the sort of cheesy B-movie Monster of the Week style episode that felt like a season 1 episode and sort of you think of as like one of the weaker type of episodes. Now, it has grown on me over like rewatches and stuff. And I think it's an interesting episode because on the one hand, as I said, it does feel like that kind of lame throwaway, Monster of the Week style episode. It does feel, and there's a few of these in early season 2 that still feel like they were meant to be in season 1 sort of thing, but obviously season 1 was a short season, and so they end up at the start of this season. But on the other hand, I think maybe because you've got Greenwalt directing and writing this one, it does have more of a purpose, like outside of the kind of Monster of the Week plot, which is lame and not too convincing. Outside of that, the actual stuff with the main characters, with the Scoobies, with Cordelia, and what's going on, a lot of the interactions, there's some really, really good dialogue in this episode. It's really quotable for great lines. A lot of that stuff is really on point. So actually, although it falls into the, as I said, cheesy, lame Monster of the Week style category, it's actually one of the better ones. It's actually one of the more watchable ones. And I think Greenwalt is a big reason for that, because he was involved in the first season, and before he created or became the main showrunner for Angel, the spin-off, he was with Buffy for 3 seasons. I almost think of him as like kind of the deputy, if you like, to Joss Whedon in the early seasons. So Joss Whedon was obviously the main guy, but Greenwalt was, maybe number 2. He probably had the nearest idea of what Whedon's vision was for the show. And certainly Greenwalt has some misses on his CV early on for Buffy, but he also, because he was there from the start, because he did write and direct quite a few episodes, he seems to understand the general vision for the show and the direction. And I think what's interesting about this episode too is the fact that we do get quite a lot of Angel, and we do get quite a lot of Buffy's development, the relationship with Angel, because at the moment they're still in the sort of will they won't they sort of phase. They're still kind of debating, is it really wise for the Slayer and the teenage girl to date a vampire who's, as Angel says in one scene, he's over 200 years old. So we get quite a lot of development in that area, in the direction of the story, and so it's sort of maybe no coincidence that Greenwalt went on to be the main guy show running Angel. So yeah, maybe he was quite influential in sort of building it up here. But in any case, just to get into what the plot is, quite simply, it's the one with the giant penis monster at the end. like a snake demon to be exact. That's what it is. Snake, worm, whatever you want to say. I think it's meant to be a snake. It looks really bad anyway, but the metaphor is on the nose. I mean, considering it's sort of set in a sorority house, and you got the frat boy culture. It's there's no doubt the metaphor they were going for, and boy, is it on the nose. But anyway, the plot is basically then these frat guys are going around in hoods. They're stalking like teenage girls. So you see one get captured at the beginning, and it's obviously revealed later. Then they're taking them to this like basement in the frat house, and there's like this big ceremony, and essentially they're being sacrificed to this demon. And as it turns out, Buffy and Cordelia end up going to the frat party in question on the night. And how this sort of comes about is Cordelia has been in contact or seeing on and off one of the college guys. You know, it's that whole thing about a high school girl being attracted to the idea of dating a rich college guy. And she is basically told that she can't really come unless Buffy comes along, because Buffy meets one of the other guys at some point, Tom. And so one thing leads to the other, and what basically happens is that because Buffy and Giles have had a set to, and she thinks he's driving her too hard, and she's still very much in this phase where she wants a life, and maybe is getting a bit fatigued by the whole slaying thing. So she's almost so drained at that point and kind of fed up at just being the good sort of girl. Then she agrees to go along with Cordy, and of course she lies about it to Giles, and there's kind of the moral of the episode in a way. And one thing leads to the other, so they get put in danger. So I think what I like about the episode is then the characters, the main characters, the ones we care about. They actually do have arcs, and they do have things that happen to them which are important moving forward. It's not just that it's this one-off monster of the week plot, and that not a great deal else happens beside that. It actually does connect to the characters, and it actually involves them. And I think it is a better episode than Inca Mummy Gal, and I think probably the reason for that is the fact that with that one, I think the monster of the week was kind of there throughout the episode, and so you sort of had some of the problems of this one. I think the pacing's not great. You've got the goofy monster stuff, which isn't very convincing. I mean, in this one, you see the monster at the end, the CGI is just really bad. Again, you can tell it's early in the show where they've got a small budget. And really, the college guys in this, they're just really generic and bland. And yeah, they just feel like boring sort of villains, if you like, when it comes to, when you compare them to, you know, Spike and the Master and some of the others who come up over. They just feel like the one note, they're just here for this deal, and that's it, villains. But it is quite a bit better than Inca Mummy Gal, I think, because for most of the episode it is sort of at least about the Scoobies. It's about Buffy. You've got the themes of her, you know, really rebelling and telling a lie because of the way Giles push her, and she's got the thing with Angel as well where, you know, he's kind of, she feels he's treating her like a kid, so that kind of like links up as well to the stuff with Giles. So the actual arcs and stories with the characters, the main characters in this episode, actually work really well, and that drives it for quite a lot of the episode. It's just kind of the monster stuff in the back half which drags it down a bit. And I think maybe the main reason the main plot doesn't work as well as you would hope is then I think it's a bit telegraphed. Now you obviously see this one guy, the one who Cordelia is going out with. Early on, you see him in the pre-credit scene. He's kind of the one who's there when they capture like the girl. So it's already been revealed, and he is one of these guys. He's a villain essentially. So you sort of know that when you see him like talking to Cordelia. But I think the other main problem is the fact then you have the character of Tom, and because Buffy and Angel are sort of, things aren't working out that well at this point. Again, Buffy is more inclined to go to this party, and she talks to Tom, and they strike it up, or strike it off, sorry. But I think the problem with this plot is the fact that the way it goes is that Tom is actually the leader of this group essentially, and it's kind of said by like the other girl in the basement at the end. Then there's this one who's nicer than different. He's nicer than the others. It's him you have to watch out for. So it's that old sort of idea. But there's a couple things. I mean, first of all, I think it's just not that convincing, the twist with Tom. I think it's... I mean, I'm not sure if I necessarily got it when I first saw it, but it's not really that unpredictable because of the way you sort of know the way the story is going. It's probably not that much of a surprise that he turns out to be a bad guy, especially since Buffy's, heading down that path. The other problem is, I mean, putting that aside, I think the other issue is then he just feels like this kind of bland, stereotypical nice guy who, is just that little bit different, or on the surface appears that little bit different to the kind of crude, sort of shallow of jocks who he's around. So the other guy, I mean, it's probably fairly true to life in a way, but I sort of think of it as it's like the Parker syndrome, and obviously that's like, or the Parker trait. And that's obviously a discussion for a future episodes, because that's a season 4 thing. But it does remind me a little bit of that character in season 4. And it also just reminds me of some of like the fill-in guys, fill-in for Angel type guys, if you like, these potential romances that Buffy has along the way. We've already had sort of, well, at least one if you include Owen in season 1. So Tom as a character, I think, is just pretty weak, not too convincing. But anyway, it's all an excuse to get them to the party, and then things can unfold. But so I think, again, the monster of the week and these kind of college guys, that they're just pretty weak villains. They're not that great. But you do get some really good arcs. As I said, you get the arc with Buffy and Angel, because then he appreciates her a bit more, doesn't take her for granted. The same with Giles. I kind of like how that comes together at the end, because it's not like Giles just waggles his finger at her and says, oh yeah, because he does make a bit of a sarcastic remark in a, you know, a jokey sort of way, but he doesn't like read her the right act. He actually, you know, says, he actually fesses up that it's partly his fault, because earlier on in the episode, which might be the scene of the episode, Willow has given Giles and Angel the riot act, basically, because she's been hiding, because she knows Buffy's lied to Giles, and actually her reaction in that scene to Buffy lying is just fantastic. And she's been trying to keep the lie, and the lie is that Buffy's been ill and her mother's been ill, so she can't really go out tonight, so to speak. And that's kind of Buffy's like cover story for going to the party. And again, it's just delightful and just so adorable seeing Alison Hannigan act and react to what's going on, to her trying to keep this lie, and she's just squirming. And I think what's great about it is the way she then just explodes at Angel and Giles. She really goes off on them, saying, why do you think she lied? You just put too much pressure on her. She's got some great lines in the scene, actually. She says something like, she's like a 16-year-old going on 40. And also their reactions are really good, really funny, like reactions as Willow just like lays into them. So I really like the line actually from Willow about coffee, because she says to Angel, which again is a great line, she says to him, you're gonna live forever, you don't even have time for coffee. It's such a great line, and that's a great payoff to a line earlier, because at the start of the episode, Willow suggests to Buffy, then you don't have to date, you know, you can go out for coffee with him. Coffee is like the non-date, the non-relationship beverage of choice or something is the line. It's another really creative line, and it says, yeah, it's just it's not a dating drink, that kind of thing. So yeah, it sort of pays off that, because she suggested coffee, and then that's paid off further at the end of the episode where Angel suggests we could go for coffee sometime, maybe, and Buffy obviously says yeah, sometime, maybe, and she plays it cool. So it's this nice little freebie with the sort of coffee set up earlier by Willow, and then Giles, Willow's rant at Angel, and then Angel asking Buffy out for coffee sometime at the end. And a lot of coffee in the episode, because in the same scene, Jonathan, who obviously first appeared in Inca Mummy Girl, is actually buying Cordelia coffee, this very particular Americanized style coffee, and a muffin. And she's like, I think you forgot something, and he has to go back and get like another ingredient or something. And she wanders over to like the Scoobies and says, younger guys, the only way to go. So there you see another sort of little arc of the episode, is the fact that Cordy learns her lesson from pursuing college guys. So I mean, it's nothing like big or deep or anything, but you do get these nice little arcs, these nice little like cautionary lessons in the episode. So they're just nice little character progressions and beats that actually work quite sort of well in progressing, because even Cordelia has sort of learned a little bit of a lesson by the end of the episode, which is quite nice. I think it's the first time we hear Jonathan being called Jonathan as well. I think he was just like a named guy in the first episode, in the last episode. But Danny Strong is going on to become a fairly regular character, and Jonathan has a quite interesting history on the show moving forward. So expect more of that in the future. So I think the episode is solid, and there's enough good stuff with the characters to make it watchable and interesting enough. It is just dragged down by the monster of the week and the villains and some of the stuff at the end, some of the pacing. So it's not a great episode, but it's at least solid. I think it is one of the better of these kinds of episodes. And before I go, actually, I'll just run through some of my favourite lines and stuff, because there is a lot of great lines in this episode. The opening scene actually might be one of my favourite, like, Scooby sort of scenes in it, with Willow, Buffy and Xander over at, well, one of their houses. I'm going to guess maybe Willow's, but they're in the bedroom and they're watching like this bizarre looking like Indian Bollywood style film, and it's a total like lost in translation moment where they don't understand what the hell is going on. It's meant to be on some sort of channel, some like one random cable channel that shows like Indian movies. I think it might be Xander's house actually, because he says the next day about, you know, going over again to watch some more. But there's just some great dialogue and reaction. I really like that Buffy and Xander are like braiding Willow's hair as she's there watching the movie. And Willow, I mean, she really has some great lines in this episode. And there's this whole thing where they're trying to work out what's going on. And Willow sort of tries to explain that the character in the film, she's sad because her lover gave her, I think it's like 12 gold coins or something. But then she says the wizard cut open the bag of gold, and so her dancing minions have nowhere to put the big maple fish thing. She's genius. I just love that they just came up with this stuff for this like one scene in the episode. And there's this whole thing about her singing into a telephone. It's just great. It's adorable, and what I like about it too is the fact that it does actually feel like real teenagers in a way. Something real teenagers would do when they're just bored and they have nothing else to do. So they just hang around at one of their houses and watch this random Indian movie. It does feel actually really relatable. I also enjoy Cordy's like fake laugh, which he does like 2 or 3 times throughout the episode. It's this idea that she reads like Dr. Debbie or something. Apparently says then if you laugh really enthusiastically at a guy when he talks, they just like it. No matter what they're saying, just do this fake laugh. So we hear her off in the distance doing the laugh a couple of times. So that's good stuff. I'm not sure if Dr. Debbie is real or not, but it's all good stuff. And as I said, the whole caffeinated beverage line is really good. Oh, and there's some really stinging like back and forth between Cordy and Xander. So at one point, Xander, I really like his gag about Cordy dating like an extraterrestrial, when she obviously says the letters thing, the data kappa, blah blah blah, and Cordy replies with an absolute zinger where she says, "One day you'll go to college, Xander. I just know your pizza delivery career will take you there, or take you far." you get some great stuff with Buffy and Giles and the training, and some quite, profound like conversations about her saying, you don't know what it's like to be 16 and a girl and a vampire slayer, and he's trying to convince her then you should relish this, you have a purpose, you have a goal, and not really many people your age can say this, if any. So that's all interesting stuff, and there's a lot of like knockabout slapstick humour with Giles and the sword and the training, and obviously her flipping him about. It's all good stuff, but this is another really, really good Buffy and Giles episode. Does some great stuff. I think also you can see the chemistry coming together with Sarah Michelle Gellar and David Boreanaz. Obviously, you can see he's starting to get a bit, sharper as an actor, and their chemistry, I think, is really coming on, and the relationship is heating up, and I think obviously again David Greenwald plays a bit of a part in that. And there is some really great lines actually in there. Some of my favourite lines. I like Cordy to Buffy at one point. This isn't about fun. This is about you helping me to reach posterity. And also her saying to her, we're like sisters, but with very different hair. And that's when Buffy agrees to go to the party with her. And it's kind of this reaction from Cordy because she's been given like sort of making fun of Buffy's like sort of fluffy sort of hair. And you get Willow saying to Sandra, excuse means cockeyed, after he kind of like tries to correct her on sort of what we're saying about Buffy going to the party with Cordelia, I think it is. Willow's how do you shave to Angel is great as well. It's like right before she gives him and Giles like total shit. When she just pauses and no reflection, Angel, so how do you shave? Which is a great question. I wonder if that ever gets explained. But yeah, there's some great dialogue in this episode, even though it's not the greatest episode of season 2. It does have some of the best dialogue, so it is very enjoyable to watch. It's just sort of the back half, and the end sort of fight and is quite well done, or quite exciting to watch as well. And I think also Xander's arc as well, that's worth saying actually before I go. Then Xander has a nice little arc. I think it's quite interesting him being bullied by these like obnoxious sort of frat guys, and he's dressed up as a girl because he goes to help Buffy to try and find her, and he's kind of there for superficial reasons as well, because of course he is, but it's sort of interesting him being dressed up as a girl and bullied because Xander is different really. He is like this more sensitive sort of masculine male. So I think you could almost see that as a comment on that. But he comes around in the end. He does actually work with the others to save Buffy, Cordy and the other girl. So, and he does get his like moment in the sunlight when he actually beats the guys up, which is great. So Xander has a small arc as well. So all the stuff with the Scoobies in this episode is really well done. So concluding on the episode, I'll give it a 6 out of 10. It's actually really solid overall. In the past, I would have been more harsher on it. I would have been more like 5, maybe 4 out of 10. But over time and more rewatches, I think there's enough in it to at least say it's a solid 6 out of 10 episode, without ever you know, it's never going to challenge like the top episode in this season. There's so much good to come in this season, and we're not too far off it, so that's really good news. But this is a solid episode to watch when I'm rewatching it. So that is Reptile Boy, and I'll place it on the list. I'll put the list in the description. Obviously, it's still going to be fairly low down, but not too low down. Not as low down as it maybe would have been before. But anyway, that's my thoughts on Reptile Boy. If you've seen the episode, let me know your thoughts, and like and subscribe, and I'll be back with more Buffy the Vampire Slayer reviews soon. Hopefully the next couple of weeks. The next one, episode 6 of the second season, we're really starting to cook because it's a biggie. It's Halloween, the first Halloween themed episode, and an introduction, speaking of villains as I was earlier, the introduction of another pretty significant villain who has a few appearances over the years. And I'll reveal that next time, but the next review will be Halloween. So I'll see you guys soon for that and other reviews. Thanks for watching. Goodbye.